The practice squad is here for your Seattle Seahawks on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. We will break down the 15 players that the Seattle Seahawks have selected for the practice squad. This is a day removed from the 53-man roster cut-down day. Also, the waiver wire included. The Seahawks did not make any claims there, but they did lose some players to the wire. Ultimately, they moved on from. We'll discuss all that and more coming up on today's show. Little happy trails. Shout out to Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser for that one. The Seahawks, I think they got a little system going in Carolina these days as the Carolina Panthers have picked up off waivers edge rusher Jamie Sheriff, the standout UDFA who had 3 sacks in the preseason, did an excellent job. And then John Radigan also claimed off waivers as well. John Radigan, we talked a lot about on this program that although he had a very good offseason, it didn't make sense for the Seattle Seahawks to pay him $3 million, that he either needed to be cut or he needed to renegotiate his deal if he was going to come back. And sure enough, he gets cut, and the Panthers take him, and they will pay him the $3 million instead, and that saves the Seahawks some cash, which will be very important down the line. We'll talk about that more on a later edition of Seahawks Today, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, the practice squad for the Seahawks, Tyreke Smith has made his return. Remember this guy? The former 5th-round pick out of the Ohio State? See what I did there? This was somebody that the Seahawks were very high on at one point in time, but couldn't get on the field. And ultimately, last season, the Seahawks decided to let him go at the 53-man roster cuts, and now he gets a second chance in Seattle. So I was surprised. This one came out of left field, but I think it's intriguing for Seattle. Seahawks fans will be very happy to know that George Holani is coming back. Despite not making the initial 53-man roster, he and Kenny McIntosh were competing for that RB3 spot. McIntosh wins the job. I know Holani was better when it came to pass protection, but both players played so well throughout this preseason and in training camp. Ultimately, they went with the veteran, their former 7th-round pick in Kenny McIntosh. But I would think that Holani has a decent shot to get a spot on the active roster, especially when you consider all 3 running backs for the Seattle Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and Kenny McIntosh, were all banged up at one point last year. So that's going to bode well for George Holani that when his name's called, he'll be ready to go. The man that led the Seahawks in receiving this preseason, Easop Winston Jr., he is on the practice squad, a very familiar sight for Easop Winston Jr. over the last several seasons, and he's still hoping to get his chance and make the most of it if that day will come. Levelston, the defensive lineman, he is also on the practice squad, and then our old friend Marquise Blair. Marquise Blair, remember the Seahawks brought him back, the former 2nd-round pick. He was competing for one of those spots at the safety position. Ultimately, he didn't get it, but he ends up on the practice squad. That's a name to potentially watch if there's an injury to step in on the active roster that has plenty of experience there compared to maybe some of the other practice squad players. Who is the first player from the practice squad that will get elevated to the active roster for the Seattle Seahawks? Give me a prediction in the comments section. Who comes to mind that you think is going to get that opportunity later on this year? Weigh in the comments section. Let us know what you think. When Seattle Seahawks news goes down, we break in right here on Seattle Seahawks Today as we bring you our breaking news videos, daily news and rumors, live shows. We're going to be live for every game with watch parties this season here on the channel. This is your one-stop shop for all things Seattle Seahawks. If you love the Hawks, this is the channel for you. Help us reach our next milestone. Getting very, very close to 55,000 subscribers, folks. Just a little less than 200 away from that next mark. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Never miss a moment. Ty Okada, he's a name to potentially watch. Came very, very close to making that 53-man roster. Ultimately, the odd man out at the safety position. He sticks around on the practice squad. Raekwon O'Neal, remember when the Seahawks brought him in from Tampa Bay? He was a guy that had a chance to compete for playing time in training camp. Ultimately, the Seahawks like what they have with some of these other options with Anthony Bradford, who had a very good training camp. He's expected to be the starter at that right guard spot. Christian Haynes has played very well to this point, so just not enough room for O'Neal in the mix. Artie Burns. Now, we talk about elevations. There was a report that came out within the last hour from the time we're taping this from ESPN's Adam Schefter that said the expectation is right now that Artie Burns will be a game day elevation for the Seahawks week 1 against the Denver Broncos, that they'll promote him from the practice squad to the active roster when that occurs. So Artie Burns, although he's on the practice squad for now, the plans are for him to be available when the Seahawks take the field here in just over a week from now from Denver. So Artie Burns, better days are ahead. He's not going to be on that practice squad for long, as he'll get his opportunity here sooner than later. Michael Barrett, who the Seahawks just traded for a few days ago, and a lot of y'all were in my comment section last night saying, why the hell do you trade for a guy and then cut him a couple days later? Well, it's because John Schneider and Mike McDonald had a plan. They were very certain that this dude was going to be available if they cut him to sign and put back on the practice squad. And you know what? They were right. It happened. So Mike Barrett, he's another name that I think with the question marks at the linebacker position could very well get a chance. And then Bars, also a guy that we saw from time to time throughout training camp the preseason. He ends up in the practice squad as well. 5 more names to get to here in a bit, but first let's tell you about today's sponsor. That is Game Time. Game Time, the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Last-minute tickets, Game Time's got you covered. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on your seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They got this new thing called Super Deals. If you find a super deal, you can't miss out on this super deal. That means it's a deal you can't pass up on. They also have their seat views, so you can see if you like that seat or not, get the visual. And then from there, folks, you're checking out. You choose the game you want to go to. They got the prices listed. Choose your seat, see if you like the seat or not. And then you got Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You heard that right. Did I stutter? No, I did not. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Garrett Greenfield, the offensive tackle spot, he goes to the practice squad. Didn't really have much of a chance to make the active roster previously. Tyler Mabry, a name that Seahawks fans are very familiar with. He's been around for a bit at the tight end position. He goes to the practice squad. Patrick O'Connell at the linebacker spot. There was never really much of a chance for Patrick O'Connell to make the 53-man roster. He ultimately ends up on the practice squad as well. Max Percher also on the practice squad at the offensive tackle spot. And then Cody White at the wide receiver position, who's been here before. He also ends up there as well. That rounds up the practice squad for the Seattle Seahawks. If there's any major changes, then we'll let you know right here on Seahawks Today, so stay tuned for that. How would you grade the Seahawks practice squad? I got to tell you, I like George Holani. I like Easop Winston. I like Tyreke Smith and Artie Burns and Ty Okada. So there's probably about 4 or 5 guys that I'm intrigued with. The rest is kind of milk toast, it feels like. So I'll go with a B or B+. Give me your grade of the Seahawks practice squad in the comments section below. For continuing Seahawks coverage, you know what to do. Hit that sub button. Lock us in. Folks, we're just over a week away from kickoff. It'll be here before you know it. You got to subscribe and keep us locked in for the latest happenings on your Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be a fun next week plus ahead here on the channel. We got you covered. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.